Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's Saturday, November 25th, and I'm over here at the high school, and there's a open area that I can crawl around under the truck, and I'm chasing some leaks and some clunks. I've got a noise in it that some kind of suspension noise, of I guess a rattle or a clunk or something, and I've been chasing it for a while and crawling around underneath it and trying to figure out what the heck is making that noise. And so I also developed a leak. And now those of you that have been following the channel know that back in 2020, as a pandemic project, I pulled the motor out of this truck and systematically went through it. Prior to that, it leaked everything. It's an old truck, 31 years old, and so as a pandemic project, I pulled it apart and I went through it and I fixed all, regasketed everything, and it's gone for 3 years now. It hadn't leaked anything, and now all of a sudden it's started leaking brake fluid. So, you know, the first thing you think of course, is to go look at the master cylinder. Let me go back over there and kind of show you that and walk you through what I did on there. Now there's the master cylinder right over there. And if you notice, it's actually a little low right now even. But the first thing you think about is maybe that the master cylinder is leaking. Well, look at it real close, and a little bit dirty, but it's not actually leaking. And if you look at the fluid's actually pretty clean, and that's because I've been having to put some in it. So if it's not leaking there, the next thing to think about, of course, would be one of the wheels. So I went down here. I brought a creeper here so I could get underneath here and show you around a little bit. So let me see if I can kind of do that and hold the camera. So the first thing when you get under here is you want to look at the calipers. Well, there's that one. That one's dry. And we look at the one over on the other side, and that guy's dry. So then we go back and we look at the back. Well, if you look at that wheel over there, that's got drum brakes, and there's nothing coming out of that one. And if you look at this one, there's nothing coming out of this one either. So if there's no leaks, then where in the heck is my leak coming from? So coming back over here, I was underneath here changing the oil the other day, and I noticed that the frame was wet right here. I don't know if you can see that on camera very well, but the frame was wet. And I stuck my finger in it, and sure enough, it's brake fluid. So I got to looking at this little jewel right there, and that's where my leak is. Now, what is that thing? Well, that's called the ABS hydraulic assembly, and it's part of the anti-lock brake system. And probably got a little O-ring in there somewhere leaking. I'm not sure exactly where it's leaking from. You can see that it's wet, even in the camera here. And it's dripping down on the frame. And what it was doing was it was evaporating before it leaked anywhere. But now, I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see it's wet there. So that's what my issue is. So I ended up looking. Let me get back out from under here so I can talk to you. So anyway, I started pricing what those things cost. And by golly, you know, they're pretty proud of them things. You can't buy a new one. They're remanufactured. I checked at Napa, and it's $300 and some odd for that little thing. So I went on Rock Auto. Rock Auto was over $200 for it. So right now that's a little bit out of my budget range, especially if you look right here. My next biggest thing I'm going to have to do is buy tires, and I don't know how well that shows up, but those tires are pretty bad. So anyway, that's where my leak is. So for right now, I'm just going to keep putting brake fluid in it and make sure I don't run out of brake fluid. Now this vehicle, I'm going to stand up so I can talk to you better. This is probably going to be kind of a crazy video. I don't even know if I'll end up using it, but these vehicles, since 1967, vehicles have what they call a dual master cylinder system. And what that means, and let me swing back around and point it out to you, is that there's actually, if you look at that master cylinder right there, there's two lines coming out of it. Okay, one line actually goes to the front brakes, and the second line back there goes to the rear brakes. And the purpose behind that, and a lot of you people that are watching this probably already know that, and they're going to say, well, silly, everybody knows that, but I'm sure somebody doesn't. And the reason behind that is that there's two separate braking systems, so if you break a line and you lose your fluid on one braking system, you're not out of brakes. And the other day when I filmed I filmed a little walk around video on my friend Mark's 66 Thunderbird. And one of the things I noticed on there is that still 66 was the last year that they didn't have the dual master cylinder, had a single style master cylinder, which of course what happens is if you break a line or something, then all of a sudden you can find yourself with no brakes at all. And the idea behind the dual master cylinder is that that can't happen. But I got a leak and I'll have to fix it eventually, and it's probably just a little 25-cent O-ring in there, and maybe I'll try to take that thing apart and see if I can fix it rather than spend all that money, because that's pretty expensive. You know, and these old trucks like this truck of mine, if I fixed everything that's wrong with it, it'd be more than what the truck's worth, especially if you had to have somebody do it. So what's that make it? That means it's totaled. When you have a vehicle where the repair cost is more than what the value of the vehicle itself is, that's when this insurance company totals it. And there's a whole lot of us driving around in these old vehicles that are, by definition, they're actually totaled. But this truck, I've talked about it before. You know, it's an old city truck here. Spent its whole life here in town. Probably didn't spend very many times over 45 miles an hour. It's got 158,000 on it, so it's a miler. But it doesn't have any rust. It's never been wrecked, and just a good solid old thing. And I like it, and so I tend to keep it for a while. But you know, technically, it's total sitting there right now. Probably needs several $100s worth of tires, and it needs front brakes. The front brake rotors, the rotors are they got the hard spots in them, so it makes the brakes pulsate. And I tried to get them turned, and they were already been turned down to the maximum, so you can't possibly turn them down anymore. And so I decided just to run them the way it is, because to replace all that, that'd be about $200-300 to fix everything in that. Back brakes, I've never had the back wheels off of it, so I don't even know what the back brakes are like. I should do that one of these days, just so I know. But it needs a couple of things. The power steering pump makes a lot of noise. It still works, but it makes a lot of racket, and that's kind of normal. But one of the things I've been doing lately is I've been chasing rattles. And the thing had all kinds of oddball noises and rattles, and so I've been trying systematically to go after it. And one of them that I've had is this door. Well, if you look down here at this striker plate, that actually is supposed to have a piece of plastic around it. And that piece of plastic went bad. And so that pin there actually is rattling. It's adjusted back as far as it'll go, and the door still rattles when you hit a bump. So that's one of my rattles. Another one I got is underneath somewhere. I thought that there was a splash guard underneath there, and I thought that was rattling. I reached up there and give it a push, and it did make a noise. So I thought maybe that was it, and I took it off, and that didn't help it. I even thought the grill was rattling, making noise. And it did if you pushed it just right. So I took it off today and actually run around town, drove some errands without a grill on it, and it still made the same noise, so that's not it either. One of the things I did is the hood was rattling a little bit. So I extended those up just a little bit, put a little bit more pressure on the corner of the hood when you shut it. Now the hood doesn't move, but darn it still rattles. So I got something underneath there, and I've been underneath there shaking and pushing and wiggling and everything else, trying to figure out what my noise is. And I haven't figured it out yet, and I'll probably figure it out eventually. But that's just a little oddball update as to what I'm doing, and just keeping myself busy trying to fix little things here and there. And I got some. I want to put it. I can order those striker pins from Rock Auto. They're only like $7. It's not a big deal. One of my suspension bushings underneath is broke, and heck, a set of those is less than $10. and so I can order that stuff and put that stuff on. And I don't know if that's going to take care of my rattle or not, but I'll keep after it. So anyway, I figured I'd give you a little update of what's going on. And, you know, if you got any ideas, put them in the comments. Because this, you know, like I say, this old truck ain't perfect, but it's perfectly good for running around town and doing what I do. So I'll go ahead and close this one for now. As I always tell you, take care of each other, love each other, take care of yourself. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. And I'll be back with you in another one here pretty quick. I put up a short earlier today, and it hadn't really picked up a whole lot of traction, but I guess with my attempt at humor, and maybe some people don't find it humorous, but if so, that's the way it is. So I'm going to give you one more little look at the old white truck here, and I'll tell you, I'll be back again with another one pretty quick. So for right now, I'll just tell you, peace out.